I didn't want to bother you. I'm just gonna stick this here. That's fine, because I'll sit next to you when I come down. Okay, how's that? Sure.
Dr. Lynn Kitei, and I don't know how many of you had the opportunity to see her documentary on the Phoenix Lights last night, but it was phenomenal. And she's an internationally acclaimed physician and health educator. She's a leader in early disease detection and prevention and was the chief clinical consultant at the Arizona Heart Institute's Imaging Prevention Wellness Center in Phoenix, Arizona. A highly accomplished professional. She's combined broadcast media with medicine, and now is on a quest for truth, and she can tell you about her personal journey, which is phenomenal. She was a key witness to the still unexplained mass sighting that took place in Arizona in 1997, called the Phoenix Lights. After years of private research, she's come out to talk about the challenges facing all high-level professionals who wish to address any aspect of extraterrestrial-related phenomena, as well as the inadequate media and government response to this extraordinary event. Dr. Kitei has been recognized in the who's who of American women. She was chosen as the Woman of the Year in Pennsylvania and has been featured for her innovative and groundbreaking work in publications such as the Philadelphia Inquirer, TV Guide Magazine, Runner Magazine, Phoenix Magazine, and Physicians Management Magazine, among others. She's an award-winning producer, writer, and director of health-related documentary films, and was called the Woman Pioneer of Medical Communications in TV Guide after creating and producing innovative TV news health reports for NBC in Philadelphia in 1976. She's dedicated over 25 years to global public awareness, wellness, and health education. Her AIDS, substance abuse, and teen pregnancy programs have won the Telly Bronze Award, the National Education Film and Video Festival Silver Apple Award in '94, the New York International Film Festival Finalist Award in '92 and '93, and the Chicago International Film Festival Silver Hugo and Finalist Awards in '93 as well. Additionally, the Columbus International Film and Video Festival Honorable Mention Award in 1991, as well as the Arizona Hemi Award in 1993 and 94. Dr. Kitei received her BS degree in secondary science education and MD from the Temple University School of Medicine. Her principal website, this is very important, www.thephoenixlights.net. Thephoenixlights.net. You'll find on there a wealth of information, a 2-minute trailer video, as well as an opportunity to buy her book. She has a table. Her book is out there as well, and is there to sign and autograph and to answer any questions privately and personally after her session and throughout this conference. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to welcome our distinguished guest, Dr. Lynn Kitei.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thanks, Cheryl. I have to tell you, if there's, it's unbelievable that I'm standing in front of you now, because this would probably be the absolute last thing I would ever choose to do, I have to tell you. But for whatever reason, I am here, and I am trying to do the best I can professionally and credibly with this topic, and really make inroads that will help change the world for the better. Let me say that first off. I've been doing this kind of thing, as was mentioned briefly, for many, many years. Even during medical school, started going into the community because I saw a need. When I was in, a number of people, by the way, asked me about my background and how I got here, so you have an understanding of why I am here. During medical school, when I was at St. Chris Hospital in Philadelphia, and I happened to mention to the chief of pediatrics, you know, what happens to kids that don't get immunizations, that don't come in for immunizations, that they don't get them? I said, well, if they're not coming to you, why aren't you going out to them? And he looked at me and he said, I don't know, we never thought about it. So we got together, a nurse and a doctor and myself as a student, and it actually became a course at Temple University eventually, because we were so successful in going out into the community and knocking on doors. And I couldn't believe the areas we were in, I mean, really indigent areas. And one house in particular really woke me up to the real need for community education on health issues. When we walked into this house, the windows were all boarded up. It was a very thin row house. If anyone knows Philadelphia, there's a whole community in northern Philadelphia that's really indigent. And I couldn't believe people were living there. No furniture, one light bulb, fly paper with zillions of flies on it, never really taken down, the stench of urine. I mean, I don't even want to go there. But they had a TV, one TV, and it was on. They had 6 children running around the house. And I looked at the TV, and as I'm sitting there while we're doing our thing, I thought, geez, you know, on the news, maybe just for a few seconds, they can catch something to help them, to wake them up to how to take care of themselves, because certainly there was such a great need. Anyway, I happened to go to NBC with the idea. They thought it was fabulous, and I started doing health tips for NBC when Jessica Savage, if anybody remembers that name, was in Philadelphia in '76. The syndication grew from that, which was wonderful, because I got to be home with my 2 young boys while I was doing that, and I was also in private practice. But when we moved to Phoenix in 1980, they were already showing my syndication at one of the stations, which was terrific. I was already established there as a credible being in the health field, and started doing tips for kids as well in a show. And then NBC asked me to do a program for them, USA Cable, and it kind of built until '85. I was seeing kids in the practice that were drowning in substance abuse. And I went to the schools, because I had 2 young boys at the time, wondering, these are good kids from good families. How did they get sucked into this? Peer pressure. And I asked the schools, well, you know, what kind of programs do you have to alert these kids to what they're getting into? Well, we don't have a problem. Well, I knew that they had a problem. So I wanted to do something to bring in my other hat, and let me just bring that in for a second. Before I went to medical school, I was in professional musical theater. Singing is my forte. If I could choose, that's what I would be doing. But I toured with Gordon McRae in Oklahoma and Betty Grable in Guys and Dolls, and I understudied Barbie in Sound of Music. And anybody that saw the movie Raising Arizona, by any chance? I played the mother in that, Florence, Arizona. Don't say you recognize me, I'll be mortified. 3.5 hours of makeup. But anyway, it was a fun hobby, and I kind of combined that with my medical education to try to do something productive with my expertise, and started producing in '85 video and workbook curriculums to impart the reality of vital health issues to youth, so they can wake them up to what they are in for and the truth about the topic. Well, be that as it may, in '95, which was really my introduction to this whole topic, because my husband, who's also a physician, and I had no prior knowledge or interest in this topic at all. When it was the night before my birthday, that's why I remember the date, I was leisurely taking a bath, and one wall of our bedroom, we live mountainside in Paradise Valley, high in the mountain, and we're kind of nestled in the mountain, but we have a panoramic view of the city skyline, which we enjoy looking at. So we know what planes look like, and helicopters and street lights and car lights and so forth. And one whole window of our bedroom is a wall is a window, so we get to see whatever pops out there if there's anything unusual. Anyway, I hear my husband, who is on several state and medical boards, very respected as well in the field, and never quickly alarmed, but he sounded alarmed, and he says, "Get over here quick, what the hell is this?" And I run to the window, and literally less than 100 yards from our bedroom window, we're actually a little below us, were 3 amber orbs in a triangle formation, 1 on top and 2 closely aligned underneath. And I'm staring at this, thinking to myself, wow, I produce video workbook curriculums. I got to get my video camera, but I didn't want to miss anything. I didn't know how long this was going to last. So I tried to take everything in mentally, the size, the shape, the color. They were oval shape. There was a uniform amber color throughout, didn't glare at all. It was mesmerizing. It was so different from any other light out there. Every light out there glares. I noticed that immediately. These did not glare at all. And I thought to myself, if I don't get a picture of this, nobody's going to believe it. So I run to the closet saying that to my husband, and he says, "Get over here quick," as I'm grabbing the camera. One of them is disappearing. And as I run over to the window, we both watched this top orb started to dim. Now, the only things we did see are Close Encounters and E.T., and our two sons as a family, we watched Star Trek, okay? The original series, The Wonderful Messages in Star Trek. So I really, the only thing that came in my mind at that point was a Klingon cloaking device, for anybody that knows that. And I was really intently watching if it was wavering, if it was taking, didn't budge. Didn't budge. No wavering, no taking off. It just started to dim ever so slowly until it dimmed out. And it felt as though if it was still there, even though we didn't see it anymore. Perhaps it went to another dimension. At any rate, I quickly got on the balcony and shot a picture of the two bottom orbs and noticed an eerie silence, as if time had stopped. It was totally bizarre. And as I'm watching these two bottom orbs very intently, it absolutely felt that something was watching me. And it took a long time for me to share this with anyone, years, in fact, to share this with anyone. But the thoughts going through my mind were, who are you? What are you? Do you know that I'm here? I'd love to meet you. The next thing I remember, the left bottom orb started to disappear, and I quickly shot a picture of that. That was the only picture that turned out at the time. But what a picture it was for me, because it verified that we did see something unusual. I got a picture of it. I actually got a picture of it when one was disappearing, which was amazing. But what to do with it? I knew no one connected with this topic at all. So we put it on my mantle, and actually my brother is a psychiatrist in Delaware, so he made a little joke out of the whole thing. And wondered, even though I didn't know who to share it with, the memory never left my mind. I would, periodically look out the window again, wondering what this advanced technology, it had to be advanced technology. I didn't know anything that we have here on Earth that does this. But I didn't even know where to go with it, so I just wondered. And then 2 years later, on January 22nd, 97, I'm lying in bed and I noticed 3 amber orbs now at a distance, but in a line formation, totally equidistant from each other. And I'm watching them and I'm thinking, wait a minute, they're amber, they're in a line formation, they're hovering for minutes, strangely similar to 95. And I watched each one as it seemed from the outside inward, it just kind of imploded from right to left. 1, 2, 3. They were gone. Well, I didn't think much more about it till the next night. My husband was at a board meeting, and I'm actually at a sliding glass door that I went out in 95, and I noticed the same 3 orbs are now in front of South Mountain. I knew they were in front of the mountain because we have red blinking lights on the mountain to alert airplanes coming into Sky Harbor, which is right in front of South Mountain, and they were lower than that. And I thought, okay, enough of this. I'm getting my video camera, and I ran and got it. I got outside. I took about 18 seconds worth, and the battery went dead. Now, the battery was charged, so I don't know what that was about, but the battery went dead. And I went in, I hooked it up, I went outside, they were gone. About a half hour later, 8:30, my husband comes up the drive, and I go outside, and I said, honey, remember I told you about the 3 amber orbs at a distance last night to the west? Well, about a half an hour ago, they were right in front of South Mountain. As I'm pointing, just like this, and I'm telling him, they reappeared in the same spot. Okay, and I thought, oh my goodness, I have to get a shot of this. So I ran upstairs, and I grabbed my 35 millimeter. As I'm ready to shoot the 3 bottom orbs, suddenly 6 orbs pop up in a massive span over a mile wide. In retrospect, it's the same formation in the same location as what happened 2 months later. And when we went back, and Bruce McAbee's in the audience here, and we went back and I found I had, when I started my intensive investigation, which I'll get to in a second, went back to the 95 pictures. I had more that I didn't even realize I had that looked blank. The same formation is in the background disappearing there as well when we were focused on the close orbs. So at any rate, I start clicking away, and I get this, as the 3 bottom orbs are disappearing, I get this top formation turning into a V shape. Very similar to what people would describe 2 months later. Well, anyway, it was unnerving, I have to tell you, because not having an explanation for the 95 sighting, I thought, is this a mothership? I mean, these were the first thoughts going through my head. Is this a mothership? Is this a fleet? I mean, what's going on here? And by the next morning, I figured, okay, there has to be a logical explanation as a scientist, okay, thinking logical here, and I start making calls. And actually, the night before, I had run in, because it was so unnerving, and I had called the Arizona Republic city desk, and I said, you got to get somebody out there quick to take a picture and tell me what this thing is. And they were gone by the time I was finished the sentence, which was really disappointing. But by the next morning, I called them again, and I said, did anybody call last night to report strange lights in front of South Mountain? And the gal got off. She got right back on. She said, nope, nobody called. Well, I know I called. So I said, well, who can I call to find out what this might have been. She says, well, sometimes Luke Air Force Base sends off experimental maneuvers and they don't tell the public about them. Maybe you should give them a call. I said, that's a great idea. So I called them up and I tried to be professional. My husband and I are both physicians and we live mountainside in Paradise Valley, and we saw some strange lights in front of South Mountain last night. Could you tell me what they might have been? And from the get-go, she had an attitude, and she said, they didn't come into Luke Air Force Base and they didn't come out from here, so we had nothing to do with it. And I said, well, you know, my husband and I did see something. I did get some on video. I'm just trying to track it down. I'm sure there's a logical explanation. Can you help me out here? She didn't want to give any information. I said, do you know a UFO organization? She said, I wouldn't have that information. Okay, I want to sleep tonight. Can you tell me what to do with this? And she says, well, you said it was in front of South Mountain. Maybe somebody saw something at the airport. So I call the airport. I get the FAA. Now it was a mission. I had to find out what this was. And I get the FAA on the phone. I tell them the same thing. And the gal was really nice. And she says, maybe there's an air traffic controller that's here that saw something last night. Great. Keeps me hanging for like 5 minutes. Finally, she comes on. And she says, actually, there's an air traffic controller that's here this morning that was here last night. And he did see some strange lights. I said, oh, can I please talk to him? She says, well, he's on duty, please. I just want to confirm that we saw the same thing. Finally, he gets on the phone. Now, this guy is a really low-key guy, mellow guy. He happens to be a meteorologist that teaches at the community college, very well informed. He was more excited than me. He gets on the phone. He says, did you see the 6 lights that were equidistant from each other hovering in a formation last night at 8:30? I said, yes, that's why I'm calling. He says, I can't believe you saw them too. Where are you? He said, you're at a distance? I said, yes. He said, actually, there were 3 at 8 o'clock. I said, I saw those too. I got those on video. He said, when the 3 popped up at 8 o'clock, they looked on radar, did not show up on radar. They disappeared. Then the 6 popped up at 8:30. Again, they looked on radar, did not show up on radar. They grabbed their binoculars because they were that unusual to take a peek. And in his own words, he said he saw 6 points of light that seemed to be attached to something, totally equidistant from each other. But they couldn't see what it was attached to, slowly moving in tandem, in synchrony, behind South Mountain. So immediately I said, so what was it? And there was silence. And finally he said, beats me. And I said, wait a minute, you're an air traffic controller. You don't know what's in our airspace? And he says, well, you've really piqued my interest too. Let's keep in contact, and I'll let you know what I find out. Well, I bring up my camera, because this time I wasn't taking a chance, and I connected it to the electricity. Well, every night after that, in January, there were these amber orbs in different formations, really compelling, and I felt compelled to photograph them as well. Starting on February 1st, they disappeared. And I thought, oh, geez, again, this is going to be a mystery. Interestingly, and I didn't find out again until I got into my intense investigation, on February 19th, 1997, St. Petersburg had an identical mass sighting like ours that would happen on March 13th. I'm coming up to that. And a couple people did get video of that, which are identical to the pictures that I took in January, but did not turn out at the time. I had taken the film that I had taken of the 6 pictures in a row, and I was told that those pictures were blank. I was so disappointed. But I figured, okay, I believed the photographer. I wasn't a photographer. I believed the developer. And thank goodness I collect sunsets, and there were 2 beautiful sunsets on the end of that strip, so I put them away. But at this point, I have to tell you, March 1st, they started again. And I thought, okay, I started photographing them again. And at that point, it was taking over my life. I mean, my husband and I would be discussing something in bed or whatever, and when they popped up, they were huge. And they immediately got your attention. I would say, save that thought, and I would run outside and I would start photographing him. I was really that driven. Something was unusual here. I wouldn't have done that. At any rate, by the first week in March, I thought this is getting ridiculous. It's taking over my life, and I started showing the video to my friends. Now, the video does not do it justice, I have to say. In the video, they're smaller, they flicker, which they do not do in real life. They're white instead of the amber color. But nonetheless, the formations are compelling, and I started showing the video to my friends. And I said, why do I have this? Why do I feel driven to do this? And consistently, they would look at me and say, Lynn, if anybody can do something credible and professional with this, you can. And I said, I don't know anything about this. How can I even begin to educate? I mean, this is my life's work, is education. Educate others to this if I don't know anything about this. And I started making calls, and finally reached, I called actually the past MUFON head, and he connected me to an investigator. We made an appointment for the following week because I wanted him to just look at the data. I told him I have a picture from '95 that I know is authentic, but I'd like someone of credence to take a look at it. And I've been shooting these other orbs, which he hadn't heard about, but I have to tell you, there are people that came out after the mass sighting that did see the orbs for days before as well. And we made an appointment for the following Wednesday. Tuesday, there's a message on my phone that the then state director of MUFON's mom had died that Saturday. The funeral was that Wednesday morning. Could I postpone? And I call him up. I said, look, I really want to see someone as soon as possible. I have a window of opportunity, one window on Friday morning for the next 2 weeks. Can I see you at 10 o'clock on Friday? Sure. Well, unbeknownst to me, this was just another night for me. March 13th, Thursday night. About 8 o'clock, I see one lone light to the far west. And by that time, I had had quite a few sightings already documented, and I figured I'm not jumping out of bed. I already have stuff to show the guy the next morning. But I noted the time, and it was 8:20. And about 8:20, I have to tell you, a lot was going on. On March 13th, 1997, when thousands of people across the state of Arizona were looking up at the sky purposely on a very clear, quiet night to catch a glimpse of the Hale-Bopp comet, they also caught a glimpse of a 1 to 2 mile wide, as some very credible witnesses would describe, triangle craft. Some saw a boomerang craft. Others saw lights that seemed to be attached to something, but they couldn't quite see what it was attached to, traverse right over their heads, very slowly. And I'm talking right over their heads. Some said they could have thrown a rock at it. It was that low. 30 miles an hour. Some saw it take it at a tremendous speed, incredible technology. Totally silent. And about 8:20, we have a report from a crewman who allegedly called, allegedly a crewman from Luke Air Force Base who called the UFO Reporting Center in Seattle, Washington. And it's all taped, very detailed tape, that this craft was traversing right over the middle of Phoenix at 8:20. Also, we have a number of witnesses in different areas around the Phoenix area that saw these phenomena around that time as well. And then about 9:20, an hour later, I happened to notice one lone light far south. And I thought that was curious because all the other nights, they seem to happen in a series of 3, about 5 to 10 minutes apart in the same area. This was now a totally different part of the sky, and it was a whole hour apart, but I noted the time. At that time, we have witnesses who happened to see these phenomena down in Tucson, far south, which would compute. Okay. About 10 o'clock, the news is about to start. Both my husband and I, as we're starting to watch the news, see the same formation in the same location as 2 months before pop up again. And because the pictures hadn't turned out, I ran out there, and my husband said to me, get the camera quick, and I grabbed my camera. By the time I got it focused, there were 3 lights left. They started to disappear, and I got the 3 lights above the city. Well, the next morning, I was thrilled that I got something of that on because it was the same thing as 2 months before. Walk into the office of the MUFON field investigator, Mutual UFO Networks investigator, and the first thing he says to me, did you see the big sighting last night? And I said, well, I saw something similar to what I described in January. He said, no, you don't understand. Hundreds, if not thousands of people statewide were outside, and they saw this mile-wide triangle traverse right over their heads, and NBC's going to be here in a half an hour. Well, I had done health reporting for NBC in the early 80s. I said, you know what? I don't know what we're dealing with here. I don't know if it's a hoax. I don't know if it's military. I don't know, whatever. I said, and it's not about me. It's about the data. Why don't you take a sample of the video and show people what I saw last night? Well, I gave it to him, and I said, if anybody wants any information, I'm happy to talk over the phone. Well, for the rest of the afternoon, I was getting call after call after call. Of course, they wanted to interview me. I didn't want any part of it. Again, it's not about me. I said, fine, show the video. That's great. By 4:30, my video was on every single station in Arizona. It was unbelievable. Every news station was showing this, and by 9 o'clock, a couple of other videos came out that you're going to see in a video. In a video that I'm going to show you in a second. And the other videos, I have to tell you, are even more compelling than mine. Mine looks like 3 lights at the side, at the very point of a triangle. When you look at Tom King's, those lights are attached to something. It looks like an arrowhead. And Kristen's video as well is just phenomenal. Just phenomenal videos. Well, this really took me back. Now a whole state had seen what I had been seeing. It was very confirmatory, but even more than that, what do I do with what I have? What should I do? Should I share it? I just didn't know what to do, so I just watched it unfold. And by a week later, I see a program, a news program, they're showing my video once again, and they're interviewing an expert in the field who happens to be in Tempe, which is where ASU is, Jim Delatoso, a world-renowned expert in the field. And he's showing, of all things, other cases around the world of these amber orbs in triangle formations. Well, that blew me away. This is the first I heard of it, that this is happening worldwide. I had no idea. Plus the fact, here is a gentleman that I should be meeting. Well, I, again, did not know what to do. I was really cautious. I mean, not only my own professional credibility, but I knew nothing about this topic. That night, and there is so much more described in the book, but I'm going to just give you a little flavor because I have to tell you this. That night, over and over, tossing and turning, take the negatives back, take the negatives back. There's something in the negatives, take the negatives back, on and on, all through the night. By the morning, it was like, okay, I'll take the negatives back. Something was telling me I would have never thought to do that. I just wouldn't have thought to do that. The next morning, the first thing I did was get dressed and go to the developer, and I said, look, I know I grabbed all the photographs I had left, and I had thrown some strips away from 95 because I was told they were blank, so what did I know? But I took all that I had left from 95 and that January 97 sighting to the developer, and I said, look, I know they look blank. They're only lights, but maybe there's something there. Lighten them, darken them, whatever you can do to see if there's something there. About a half hour later, she comes out with a big smile on her face. I got 4 for you. Well, as it turned out, that really, really took me back. Now I had something in my hand that was really spectacular that I needed to share. And at that point, I met with Jim Delatoso and asked him to please, please keep this strictly confidential. I wanted to stay anonymous until I knew what I was dealing with. And at that point, I started to keep an intricate journal, very intricate journal, not only of the events as they unfolded in Phoenix and in Arizona with the military, and I called the military, and all those, a bunch of conversations are in my book, which are very intriguing indeed. The media, which I'm going to show you in a minute here, because this is what I do. This is what I've been doing for 25 years. I collected all the media reports, and I have a 15-minute video, which I'm going to show you in a sec, and a 30-minute video that shows how the story unfolded through the media, which is another really intriguing story unto itself. What happened to the government, the fact that there was no explanation, no investigation, nothing. People were blown off by everyone. It was so frustrating for the witnesses who were trying to say, I saw something incredible. Why aren't you investigating this? And it wasn't until a USA Today article came out. Most people don't know this. In June 18th of 97, and opened this up to international scrutiny. And we were deluged by media from all over the world saying, why? I mean, once you talk to the witnesses and you hear their heartfelt stories of what they witnessed, as simple as that, the data speaks for itself. They were asking, why isn't there an investigation? Why isn't there an explanation? Well, within a few weeks of that, they had to come up with something. I got a call, and I had communicated with the Air National Guard, and the head of PR calls me up and she says, Dr. Lynn, and by the way, I was called Dr. X because I did some radio programs anonymously too, so Jim Delatoso and Mike Tanner, who were the investigators, gave me the name Dr. X, so to the public I was Dr. X, but somehow she knew my name. And she calls me up and she said, Dr. Lynn, we think we found out what some people might have seen during the mass sighting. Chose her words very carefully, and I said, what do you mean? She said, well, would you believe that nobody looked at the log for visiting Air National Guard, and the Maryland Air National Guard happened to be in town that night and they were sending off flares? That must be what some people saw, and the Phoenix lights. I said, excuse me? Now, I had not told her I didn't tell any of the military what I had, although they asked to meet with me. I did not. I kept it confidential as well. I said, well, wait a minute. First of all, I have pictures that show the same formation in the same location 2 months before the Maryland National Guard got in town March 1st. And she said, well, you never told me that. And then I said, besides that, I said, how can you say that a mile-wide triangle craft that traversed the entire state are flares? Flares don't do that. And she said, oh, excuse me, I have a call coming in. I'll get back to you. Well, I'm still waiting for that call. At any rate, there is so much to this story, but I want to move on to the video for you. Once again, what I ended up with, and what I did actually, was push my entire professional life aside for 4 years. 4 years, and we're talking intense investigation, from 7 in the morning when my husband left from work to 7 at night. I still had a life, but when he walked through the door, I put it aside. But I have to tell you, from 7 in the morning till 7 in the night, every single workday, I tried to find a logical source and meaning for what I both witnessed and photographed. I have yet to find it. If anything, it opened up a whole new world to me. Once I started looking, I started finding such credible data. I couldn't believe there were so many scientists and wonderful people that are here today that I learned about. I knew nothing about this existence. It was a whole new world that was right above my head, right in the books that I did not know about. And once I started writing it down, and I met with the University of Arizona Optical Science Department, Consciousness Study Department, ASU Geology, Mathematics Department, Brooks Institute of Photography, I really tried to do my homework as a scientist to find out what was going on and have my data analyzed. It is yet to be explained to me. Okay, so I have to tell you, I don't know what it is, but I know that it is. And once I ended up with a 750-page journal 4 years later, I had to come to a decision. And that was the hardest thing of all. And I will get onto more of what I found out in my investigation after we show this video. But I have to tell you that through much soul searching, and I continued to take photographs that were quite amazing. It came to a point where I had to say, look, in good conscience, I cannot stick this in a drawer. And once I educated myself to what was going on, it was imperative that I educate others. I mean, here I was a medical doctor. I didn't know any of this. I figured there's a lot of other people, and especially youth, that have no idea about this. There is a chunk of history missing from our history books, and it needs to be filled. That gap needs to be filled, and hopefully what I'm doing will help start that. But I'm going to show you a video now from the day after the mass sightings, starting with the day after when they started the media blitz, if you would call it that, to 3 years later, because when they came out with the flare theory, 5 months later, okay, let's say logically, okay, it is flares, do it again. Now I knew, and the investigators I was working with, just Mike Tanner and Jim Delatosa were the only ones that knew at that point, that I had documentation, and then even a year later when I worked with Dr. Bruce Maccabee, who was so sweet to go through and really help me evolve in all this, and saw that the same information was in the background when we were taking our close orbs. And by the way, during the mass sighting, there are reports of people seeing these orbs detach from the main craft and re-dock with it. And maybe that's what happened in '95. At any rate, I have documentation at least 3 times of the same phenomena in the same location. So, hey, if it's military, do it again. I'm happy to see it. I'm happy to say, hey, there you go. Well, you know what? It wasn't until a week before the 3rd anniversary of the mass sighting that all over the headlines of the paper, 3 Air National Guards were coming into Phoenix to send off flares. It was California, Michigan, and New York to show everybody the Phoenix lights. It was supposed to be a 2-week run. By the 2nd day, they scrapped it. Why? It was a joke. You'll see. The data speaks for itself. You decide. Oh, and by the way, at any rate, there is so much more to this story, and I really tried to do the homework for everybody, and I can't stress enough, everyone that has read the Phoenix Lights, and so many have emailed me and not only thanked me for the hard work that went into it, which is very rewarding, because that's what this is all about, but also that through my own transformation, because I didn't even realize as I was writing it, I was just telling the story as it unfolded, but certainly for me personally, I went through such a transformation of this sinking in as a scientist, as a healthy skeptic. I was constantly looking for a logical source and meaning. And when it came down to it, there is none. We have to go into a new area. And as far as the media goes, I have to tell you, and this is something that I also hope that my work will help in paving the way in some small way. is that in Arizona, particularly in the Phoenix area, and we have Rebecca Hardcastle right here, who is part of our documentary. She's an ordained minister who was kind enough to be interviewed for the documentary, which I also felt was necessary to get out there. This, unfortunately, I can't sell or get out there other than presenting, so you're on the inside with this information because it's copyrighted. But I wanted to do something that people could see, and such wonderful people joined me in just imparting the truth and the facts, the data, as it speaks for itself in the documentary. But I have to tell you, in Phoenix area, particularly, not only because when I did come forward last year as myself, there was so much media that knew me as Dr. Lynn from medical reporting. And I had established already from the early 80s my credibility in the community. And when I came forward as Dr. X, they were like, I mean, here they've been hearing about Dr. X for 7 years. And they really, really embraced me with open arms. I have had incredible, not only positive reports done, but they are open now. And we just went through our premiere, and Rebecca will verify for me. The media, I mean, they just went crazy. I mean, every morning show, every noon show, every night show, they wanted those reports out there, and they wanted people to hear the truth. And they also have embraced other people that have come to them with pictures. People have moved to Phoenix just to take the Phoenix Lights, including in my video, a active military that asked for transfer to Luke Air Force Base just to see them, and he has, and he's taking pictures of them. At any rate, that's one point that I hope that this has to happen all across America, where the media starts really opening up to the truth and to listening and to sharing. And not only is it important for the media to share, but it's important for people to share their own stories because it's very healing. And that was one thing also that happened during my investigation, my meticulous investigation. I found not only my own, and I go into detail in the book again on my own near-death experience as a child, which is riveting, but as I was interviewing other witnesses to the Phoenix Lights, a few of them were telling me that their near-death experiences were reawakenings as well. And I found that very curious, and I thought, wow, is there a connection between all unexplained phenomena, near-death experience, out-of-body experience, unexplained aerial phenomena, that have a mystical light associated with it? And lo and behold, when I really started looking at the literature, the data, Paul Perry wrote a series of wonderful books with Melvin Morse, MD, and that was the first one that I picked up on near-death experiences of a scientific study of near-death experiences of children, and it blew me away. It actually helped me open up and, to my own near-death experience as a child. But as I was looking and finding more and more research that has been going on, there is indeed a connection, not only in the experience itself, but most profound is the after effect. And when I started really noting worldwide this positive transformation, this enlightenment, this awakening that happens within an individual that not only experiences what I began calling all unexplained phenomena, UP, unexplained phenomena, and ups, because not only are they up, we look up in the sky to see unexplained aerial phenomena for sure, but the positiveness of what happens within, really deep within the person that truly experiences an unexplained phenomena and up, or reads about it, learns about it, opens up their mind and their heart to really, really take it to heart, is so transformatory, a connectedness to the universe, to the earth, to each other, that absolutely changes the person for the better. And if we can help change from this whole experience, if I can help change this world for the better, then I've done my job. At any rate, many people worldwide who have unexplained phenomena, experiences, and up, also get a message, a very profound, important message that was one of the main reasons that I had to come forward. Because 1 month after, and again, many things happened that month after the mass sighting that you can read in the book, Out-of-Body Experience. I mean, just absurd experiences that never happened to me before, but one of them that did, I will share with you. 1 month after the mass sighting, just hours, in the middle of the night, hours after an older couple in Rainbow Valley, Arizona, had shot daylight footage of these orbs. woke up in the middle of the night, and I had had an experience, and I won't ruin the book by sharing it now, but I had had an experience a week before that was shared by my husband, and I had never told him about it. And I lay there in bed afterwards, and it was like, wait a minute, how could he possibly have the same experience I had? And thoughts started entering my mind that were so compelling and so different, so profound, and so foreign from anything I'd ever thought. I felt compelled to write them down. And in the darkness, I walked downstairs, I grabbed a pen and a paper, and I just started writing with my eyes closed, just writing and writing and writing off the page. And I laid it down, went back to bed. The next morning I picked it up, and it was the first time that I read what I had written the night before. And what I wrote not only sent me on this 8-year journey, but it's brought me here today, and it's my honor to read it to you now. I don't know what about other living creatures in the vast universe, but questions keep permeating my mind about the ones who are trying to get our attention now. What if these beings are as advanced spiritually as they are technologically? What if they want to share this beautiful and wondrous future with us? And what if they have already met our spirit world and know firsthand that the essence of who we are is pure? They may only be trying to help us recognize the positive spirit deep within and teach us to know ourselves for who we really are before we destroy our world. Each and every one of us is a powerful being with the strength and wisdom to deeply appreciate our earth and every living creature on it. It is time we view ourselves in a new light. This can begin by searching within ourselves to find goodness and love, so that the consciousness of humankind can elevate spiritually above petty differences, envy, greed, lies, hatred, abuse, violence, and fear. That is our destiny, but only if each of us chooses to look within our own soul for the answers. They are there. It isn't too late. Humankind can begin this very moment to learn and grow so that our future will benefit from our newfound knowledge, not be pulled down by our self-serving primal ignorance. It is so very important to look within yourself and to believe in yourself. Judge yourself each and every day. There will come a time when you will indeed judge every moment of your own life, the goodness and the bad, the kindness and the wrath that you and you alone have brought to other human beings, to other living things, to our earth. You will feel what it felt like to be on the receiving end. Near-death experiences have told us time and time again that when we die, we go through a life review. God does not judge us. We judge ourselves. So maybe we should judge ourselves now. Think clearly about how we treat ourselves and others, the energy and dedication we put into our relationships, especially our family, as well as our relationship to other living things we touch in this short but precious existence. So when our time does come, we won't have to endure pain and sadness, but rather we will be drenched in the ecstasy of our own love, in the magnificent light of love. And if each of us truly looks deep within, the positive energies emanating from the goodness that each one of us possesses will be shared around the world. Then our beautiful journey to a new reality will have begun. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll be outside for anybody that wants to share. Thank you.